Guys, good afternoon. Welcome to the first TSM 2006. This should have been the fourth, perhaps, but unfortunately, due to COVID-19, this has got a big dent in what we do. So I'll have some opening remarks. There's some team updates. Training managers will have a chat. DFO has a few things to say for himself and for fleet as well. Okay, and then we can go through some standardization items and any other business that we may have. A few updates to discuss. Well, of course, as we said, we postponed all the TSMs due to COVID-19 since February. We're resuming them slowly. We've had internal meetings. We haven't just abandoned the thing, but it was of no significance, etc. Again, what we're going to do, we're going to try and record it because we have a very small audience, and then publish it out there to the other instructors so they can actually see what we discussed and what we spoke about and so on. And then, of course, updates to our business, what we're doing and how we're going to get back into action to get everyone back to flying. First of all, GMF. He's taken his retirement. I'm sure you all know. It's just to say a very big thank you for his time and his efforts here at Hong Kong Airlines the last 8 years, etc. We wish him all the best. Some of you did see him a few days ago at a small gathering that we had. So, COVID-19's put a very big dent in our ops. I'm sure you've realised that it's put a very big dent in the operations worldwide as well. I think we're sort of relatively lucky here at the moment with what we have. The resumption, as we say, from August, we will plan to have the regular interval for the TSM. Okay. Hopefully by then we'll have better social distancing and bigger tables for happy hour. There's a lot of publications that we published, and this is primarily one of the reasons why we all wanted to get together. At the DFO's request, for me, I was happy to just keep going with no TSM for now. But there's so much happening that we sort of felt obliged to convey the message to you directly. There is some confusion out there because everyone wants to interpret the way they want to interpret a few things. So we'll just go through some principles and methodologies, what we do here at Hong Kong Airlines for now. Training manpower. Yes, there have been some movements. Some of you here have been affected by some of the movements. And that was primarily due to the aircraft introduction management team giving us the final numbers for the aircraft that will be operating here at Hong Kong Airlines. And this is what we will have towards the end of 2020 in terms of fleet structure. 12 minibuses, 10 wide body, and A350s, none that are operated by us. There's one on the apron here, and after, I believe, COVID-19 is sort of relaxed, it will soon depart as well. Okay?
Again, this is always subject to change according to the business.
So getting you back in the aircraft, getting us all back to flying. The plan is we're 2 additional slots daily for the A330. That's to cater for what we would call the operational recovery sim session. For A320, again, we don't know how many slots we're going to have per day, but we're working on around 2 as well, probably. Correct me if I'm wrong, Casey.
Yeah, one.
And reintroduction of the LSO plan, slightly different, this time operated by instructors. And we'll lead on to it and what we're trying to do with the LSO program, etc.
LSO stands for Line Safety Observation.
We created 2 ops recovery plans, one A320, one A330. Okay. Basically, what this is a bastard version of the initial handling sim that we were going to introduce. And IATA, ICAO, many other airlines got together, produced lots of white papers, and discussed how they would get airlines back flying. At the moment on the 330, we're, I'd say, quite lucky. On the minibus, not so lucky. They don't have too many sectors, and those sectors that they have, they either upgrade to a 330 or the flight is cancelled. So we've retained, I say we, the A330 fleet, the wide-body fleet, has actually retained quite a few sectors. The priority in who flies those sectors, we have the trainers up on top. And the reason we have the trainers up on top is because when the wave comes along and we have to get everyone back to flying, we need you to get those people back flying. And as a support at the back end from the ops recovery sims, it's to get the guys ready to sit on seat and go flying and get back to the norm. How long the norm will be and when it's going to happen, your guess is as good as mine. It's very difficult to predict. As a snapshot, excuse me, it's going to be some preparations, normal pushback, normal start. It's going to be a normal sequence, just to get the crew back into a normal frame of mind of operating aircraft. Normal takeoff, some handling in terms of visual circuits. So, handling can be quite busy there. It does not replace the SBTA program. However, doing it with an SFI, TRI, TRE, etc., one landing can qualify you for the 35-day recency. So that can be a tick in the box, okay? But it does not qualify or alleviate anyone for the SBTA program if they qualify or not. So, a variety of things coming back. Then we'll practice an engine failure. Although we still do engine failures in the PC, we don't get too much practice, etc. We haven't had too many opportunities. Okay, coming back, some form of a precision approach with a high energy go around, some raw data flying, RNAV approach, which will even go into Macau and do the RNAV runway 16 Yankee approach as well. The way we will deploy this, we will call you in, the guys who are teaching it, we will discuss it for you to deploy. It's the best way for a standardization to keep everyone on the same page. I know that Jason does it his way, Lek does it his way, Lemo does it his way, for example. Just as an example. Sure. Don't panic yet. Okay, it's just to standardise the whole thing because we deem that this is an important step for us to get people back to flying. Now, the introduction of the LSO, of the safety flights by instructors. It's to monitor the integrity of the operation, primarily. It's not a line check. It's not a check. It's just to have a look at the integrity of what's going on. SOP compliance. We see how people apply SOP, how they adhere to SOPs, etc. Some of you probably in a former life may have done LSO flights. That's fine. Methodology is similar. Here at Hong Kong Airlines, when this was initiated a few years ago when Jeff Warner was at GMF, we had line pilots doing this in order for the drivers up the front not to feel intimidated that a trainer was sitting at the back or even a management pilot was sitting at the back taking notes. We need to step this up a little bit for our own integrity at the moment. So that's why we want to use the expertise of instructors. Okay? And we will have a feedback mechanism. Although this is non-punitive, okay? There will be a feedback mechanism saying if somebody is poor in one domain, really we want to know about it. In fact, I think everybody would need to know about it because this would impede our operation. Okay, and I'll explain to you later on when we go through the slides towards the end regards the templates that we'll be using on the ETR. Okay, and of course we use ETR or paper, whichever is available to us. All right. Okay, I'll hand over to KC. KC's got a few things that he would like to to go through.
Thanks.
Yeah, just
Okay, my message quite simple. The COVID-19, which has been mentioned a few times by Andy, has impacted our operation quite significantly. Most of you, if not all, will have very little flying. Some of us have no flying at all for the past few months. Okay. For this reason, I'm sure a lot of us, when we go back online, will be very rusty in our scan, in our procedures, and even in our flying skill. So for this, I would like to remind everyone to put safety as the first priority. Always safety comes first. Okay. By that, I mean when you go out there flying, keep it slow, keep it steady, be conservative. Think about things that you're going to do before you actually doing it. There are some key areas which I would like you to consider when you are out there flying. First one, the approach. The approach is always accounted for the most untoward incidents or accidents in the past data. So before you conduct an approach, please think about it, mentally review it, brief to your colleague before you execute it. During the execution phase, at any time if you are uncomfortable or if it's out of the limit, go around. Do not hesitate to go around. Okay, go around and come back again. That is always the safer solution. Okay. Second one, checklist and preparation. Again, like I said, your scan floor, you might miss some of the items during your scan floor. No worries, the checklist is there to guide you, to ensure that you have done all the items. So go through the checklist slowly and make sure that you have completed all items. The checklist here, I mean the normal checklist, the LVO checklist, the non-ILS checklist, and even the C2 plus briefing guidelines. So go through them, use all the documentation we have provided you to guide you for a safe operation. Third one is the profile, especially the non-precision approach. Again, once a while we still get people fly a wrong non-precision approach. So for all non-precision approach, please, again, this is linked with my first point as well, the approach. Basically, you need to study it, mentally think about it and brief it before you execute it. And again, during the execution part, anytime you are uncomfortable or unsure, just do a go around and come back again. Okay? Last one, but not least, the weather. As typhoon weather is approaching, so keep a close watch out for the weather, especially the forecast. And during flight, again, keep a conservative approach. If there is thunderstorm over your destination, hold until the weather pass before you commence an approach. And during an approach, anytime it exceeds your operational limitation or even your own personal comfort, just do a go around or a radar vector and come back again. Do not push for it. Okay? Forget about the OTP. Forget about the completing the mission. Safety is always number one. Okay? Thank you. Okay. Later I will share more about the flip side, basically the FCNs and the SEP notices that have been published in these few months. And you can continue the training after.
Yeah, first of all, good afternoon to everybody. I'm on no pay leave today, but Andy wanted me to be here.
2 beers you get later.
So anyway, first and foremost, I would like to thank those former TREs and TRIs who were relegated to LTC duties. You know, we cannot thank you, as much for your contribution to the department. And in as much as we would like to retain everybody, I mean, the system will not allow us to do that. So we'll have to, relegate you to LTC duties in the meantime. But hopefully in the future, we'll be able to go back to TRI and TRE positions. We have this EDTO annual evaluation program. This is in compliance with CAD 513. What we've been doing currently is, we just have a few items in the PC exam in as far as EDTO is concerned. But now, in order for us to comply with the EDTO program of CAAD, we'll have to come up with a Pelesis course. It is a short course. It's like a review of the EDTO procedures and systems, etc. It's going to be, I think, for an hour. That's good enough. And there will be a quiz at the end. It's a 15-item quiz. Again, it's very easy. It's all related to the course that you will be reading. What will happen is we'll be issuing a PN by June 15, and this is for all the 330 and 350 pilots. Effective July 1, it will be on the Pelesis, and you have a month to be able to complete this. As I've said earlier, it's not as difficult. You can actually finish it in an hour, and the quiz maybe in about 15 to 20 minutes. You can easily fix it. Now, I would like to go back to the compliance of everybody as far as the Pelesis courses are concerned. If you will notice, the hot weather, it was given to us in March or April.
April.
And it's supposed to end on May 31. And sad to tell you that there's still a lot of people who haven't completed it. And some are even instructors. So let me just remind everybody that as instructors, we should be able to walk the talk. Meaning, if we should be able to complete it by 31, then we should be able to complete it earlier, much earlier than the land pilots. And it would be nice if you could mention that during any of your training events, like if you're doing a flight, you're doing a sim, for example, then ask them, have you completed the hot weather? In this manner, people are reminded that they have to complete something by the deadline, and we shouldn't be running after these people just to complete the Pelesis courses. All right. As I've said, the TN, it will be issued on June 15. So again, if you have any training events, just please advise your trainees that they have to comply with this one, particularly within the deadline. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to approach any of us. So again, July 1 will be the start of the Pelesis courses. So all of the 330s and 350 former pilots will be enrolled in this particular Pelesis course. There have been a lot of questions regarding the RT3, particularly for the 330, because we have a dual hydraulic exercise. And some of the people were saying, oh, BJ, we cannot, comply with, or we cannot follow the syllabus. And when we found out, it was because they were not following the failures that was supposed to be done. And I remember that some sent a message, maybe last month or a couple of months ago, that we have to comply with what is stated in the syllabus. So if the syllabus says you have to fail this, you have to fail that. Because otherwise, it will give you a different outcome. So if ever you encounter anything, please let us know so we could again review this and we can send out a reminder to everybody. For RT4, we are aiming to come up with the syllabus, the instructor run sheet by August. So we will issue this to all the instructors as early as possible because it will be running in September. Now again, we would appreciate any feedback that you'll be able to give us, because for this reason, we'll be able to improve on the final product. Okay. Stable approach criteria. Again, we cannot overemphasize the importance of stable approach criteria. In some of my PCs or RTs, for example, I make sure that I ask them about the stable approach criteria. And there's still a lot of misunderstanding as far as VAP and VAP target is concerned. Speed control or no speed control. So I would like everybody, especially the instructors who are doing PC and flight, please quiz your trainees. As much as possible, they should be able to enumerate the stable approach criteria verbatim, understand what it means, and be able to execute them during the sim session. If, for example, at the beginning, during the briefing, they're not able to enumerate this correctly, try to correct them, and by the end of the session, during the briefing, ask them again. So it's like reinforcing the idea of knowing, understanding, and executing the stable approach criteria. again, I always tell them, knowing is one thing, understanding is another, and executing is another. So we have to make sure that they do all these three things. Okay? Otherwise, you'll be asking them to fly the aircraft without knowing what a stable approach criteria is. And that's the reason why we still have one or two unstable approaches every time. So I think, and I believe that what we are aiming for is 0 unstable approaches. And we can all work on this. As Andy has mentioned earlier, there will be a discussion later on regarding the takeoff and landing recency. Again, when we get the forms, there are still a lot of questions. How do I fill out the form? Which form do I fill out? And later on, once and for all, we will be able to finalize this. Again, if you have any concern, feel free to do that once we talk about the AMC takeoff and landing recency. I think for now, that's for the 3:30, unless you have any clarification to make. Otherwise, we'll go for the end of the session for the other businesses. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Afternoon, guys. 3:20 was the shortest, right? I'm going to slides. Okay.
Actually, I'll put it into one.
Into one. That's slide. Okay. This is including this one. Yeah.
Okay, two. Okay, two.
This is a general statement to all the instructors, right? You know that some of you are put in the pool, okay? Just to give reassurance to you guys that you will be reactivated, okay, when the time comes, okay? So thank you for your patience, and we are trying very hard to justify everything, okay? This slide I'm going to show you is just a. Okay, so basically, for example, on the 3:20, 2 instructors have resigned. So we are trying to stop in or reactivate 2 who are in the pool when the time comes, right? So you may have to come back for a SIM, just one session SIM, just LTC requalification. And on top of that, you have to be current on the left hand side and right hand side, okay? CCQ is a continuing program from 3:30 to 3:30. Due to the current situation, additional 4 local sectors will be added to the CCQ program, right? I know everyone is thinking, now we have so few sectors, why 4 more? As per DFO, again, safety is our main concern. Most of us, we are quite rusty, we don't fly a lot, right? That's the reason why we build in the 4 local sectors. And subject to the current condition, hopefully that we can get it done without much trouble. And that's it from my side. Any questions? Thank you.
You're right to get to the pub, are you? If I was a trainee and I was given 4 extra sectors loofers, I'd be quite happy. I would be rather unhappy if they called me to the office to give me an additional 4 sectors. That means I wasn't doing particularly well. So, a lot of guys haven't flown, especially the guys that came off the 3:30 to do the CCQ. They've been hanging around now nearly 6 months. So, okay, you can ignore the next slide because I think it's a bit premature to have a break unless you want a break. All right. Just like to pop into some updates and clarification on the standardization items. This would be a bit of a mix between myself and Casey, looking at what's been published and so on. Since March, we've had quite a bit of activity, and we just want to give you a bit more insight and rationale behind the notices that have been published in terms of training notices, FCNs, SEP notices. There's a lot of activity in the background, which we feel that we'd like to share with you at a closer, more detailed point. First of all, we had a new revision of the OMD, published 7th of May. What we've done with that, I never liked the OMD. The way it was constructed, the way it was put together, were bits everywhere. Ed loved it because he knew it very, very well. So I thought, right, seeing as though Ed was not here, by the way, welcome back, Ed, from your no-pay leave. So So we thought, seeing as though he's away, what we'll do, we'll take everything, we'll combine everything together and just make one document. So we've got an OMD for instructors, an OMD for the trainees. When we break it down, then everything is in one place. And we can also search the entire, all the appendix. We can just do one search and everywhere. So I think for simplicity, it probably worked a little bit better. There's a few more things that will change as we go along very, very soon. Okay, so in terms of training notices, the important ones we believe are 35-day captain recency. We'll have a little touch on that, what it actually is. We've made changes to the line check provisions, recent type experience handling, and of course there's some base training updates because we have a lot of SBT sessions. Okay. 35-day recency. It was published at the front end of COVID because there was fewer flights, and we had instructed rostering and the training team if the trainees required a takeoff and landing for the 35-day, okay, was to tag their roster with TL and for it to be performed in the sim, time permitting. If we ran out of time, we need to tell somebody something, like Andy did not do his takeoff and landing. Crew control need to know this because they might send you flying in and you're not actually recent, you don't fulfill the requirement. Okay, so that's why the majority of the communication that we've had with you in terms of all the notices is contact crew control. Contact crew control, tell them that something has not been done. Okay, so that's quite crucial. And then basically the TN will give you an outline of what it was. Okay, moving on. Line check provisions. It was a bit cramped in the OMD. We improved the clarity regarding the line checks, the conduct of the line check, the different types of line checks, and we added a provision which wasn't entirely clear for training captains, and a new part which is the management of an expired line check. How the crewing will be done and who will be the pilot in command, etc., etc. That's to comply with the AN HKO requirements that are in place. Okay? And the notice is fairly simple and quite clear. Happy with that? Recent type experience. This is where it started getting a bit more complex. No one's flying. We need to do captains, FOs, we need to do a certain amount of flights on the aircraft. Those sectors cannot comply. We went through a process with the Hong Kong CAD, applications, risk assessments, etc., etc., and we have an alleviation. And the alleviation for this is to substitute the 3 takeoff and landings to be conducted in the sim rather than the aircraft. It does not mean you have to do 3 takeoff and landings in the sim and then go and do 3 takeoff and landings in the aeroplane. Okay? The majority of the cases. So remember that, the majority of the cases. Okay. If we cannot accomplish this, we have to tell crew control. And there's a reason, because they tag the roster. So when the roster is issued and they plan you for an AMC session, they will tag the roster and say, Andy, takeoff and landing 1, 2, and 3. If we don't say anything that we did not conduct the session, or the sim broke down and I can only do 2, for example, the system will not be updated. If we don't convey the message to them, the system assumes that I am current with 3 takeoff and landings and I can go flying tomorrow. So that's why the communication aspect is very, very important. Okay, and that's stated in the preamble of the TN itself. So, what needs to be accomplished? 3 takeoff and landings. The program that we use is the SBTA program. Okay, great. SBTA program was not designed for the alternative means of compliance for 3 takeoff and landings. Okay, it's part of another program. But this is our submission to the Hong Kong CAD this is the program that we will use. Great. So we do 3 approaches, of which 1 is a go around and 3 landings. The form, incidentally, does not have an entry to grade or to assess the go around, because it's technically not part of 3 takeoff and landings. Okay? So don't get your knickers in a twist if we can't find the box for the go around. Okay? Because it was not designed for that specific program. Okay? As you said, what program do we use? SBTA. The trainee is required to have 500 hours on type, CPL, an ATPL, and have conducted 3 takeoff and landings in the last 12 months. So, if we have a trainee rock up and he's got 499 hours, and he has a CPL, everything is against him now, and he's got a CPL, can he do the alternative means of compliance? No. Do we send him home? Okay, everyone say yes, 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 yes.
He can do the sim, but then he has to do Lucas.
Exactly. So we don't waste the sim. Okay. There has been a couple of cases where the guy said, "Well, sorry, mate, but I've only got a CPL." Yes, but you plan for Lupus as well. Okay. There's only so much we can actually put down on one notice. I mean, it's unlimited. I mean, there's unlimited pages, but to cover the actual fact, that's what we had to state in our notification. Okay. And the specific form we use, just if you complied with the 3 take, would be the AMC form. Then that comes back just for the records. Remember, if you conducted it and the trainee had finished, crew control will assume that you are okay, the chap is okay. The only instance we contact them is if we have not accomplished the program. Happy? And there's the form. Yes, I can.
Okay, going back to what Jason has mentioned, so if the guy is a CPL holder, definitely he can do the AMC, but he can still do the SIM, the SPTA. He can still do the SIM.
Yes, yes. He can do the AMC sim, but then he's got to do 2.
And the form
will
will be different then. So you will not
SPT
use this form. You will use the SPT form.
Yes, yes.
All right. Thanks.
So, as we said, if a trainee does not qualify for the AMC, the expedition plan can go ahead. However, the crew will still have to do their loofers, as Captain Bowser just said, and 3 takeoff and landings in the aircraft to do their reset. Everyone cool with that? So we don't waste the session, and this is the reason why we inform crew control. It is to stop them from tagging the roster that the crew, for the crew if they don't qualify. Okay? That's the important part. It's quite a complex job that they have over there doing this. Base training, so it's improved for clarity. There's a new, I'll go through just a couple of words from Lewis. He's not here to join us. As we do a hell of a lot more sim-based training, we had to update some of the programs for the base training and standardization amongst the fleets. It's quite a lengthy TN, and it just outlines different checklists which are used and so on and so forth. For that. Questions? Very good. You're happy actually. Okay, from Lewis, there's been an update recently that changes to the SBT part, and that's reflected in the Appendix 3 Alpha in the OMD, and we supplemented that with a TN with all the diagrams and so on and so forth. Those of you who are conducting sim-based training, there's a new PowerPoint, there's unified for all fleets and all the syllabi, etc. AMC, recency, follows the baseline of the SBTA program, we've discussed that already. And finally, there will be a revamp of the evaluation repository very soon on the e-library. It's all a bit sort of messy. So there'll be a bit of a revamp with new folders for both training and evaluation. Last but not least, there'll be a preview coming soon for PC4. Evaluation and the trial has been completed, and then we'll be pushing that out very, very soon. Okay. Cool. Have you had enough of me? Do you want to have a break or okay. Just continue then? All right, message from Adam, ground training, regarding the LSO program. Okay, so we've created a specific template for the LSO, and it's very similar to the paper form. I'm sure you've all seen the paper form floating around somewhere. And it's called basically the LSO. We synchronize it, we download the form. Now there are no names, so Casey is doing an LSO flight on my flight, for example. He's not going to find Andy and he's not going to find Jason as the crew members. Sorry, I keep picking on you, Jason. BJ and I.
We're at the 3 beers already.
So there's no names. So it'd be crew member 1 and crew member 2, LSO. That's it. Okay? They're the ones that will be loaded into the program. So we have to ensure that CM1 LSO, they're under the same program. Okay? When you select it. Now, we've populated the form with the different standards. These standards were as the standards were before on the paper, on the legacy form. But we've made an additional note here to say if the crew performance is poor and only poor, nothing else, okay, then the crew name needs to be written in the LSO comments. Why? Because we want to close the loop and come back and offer this person a top-up in training or rectify any problems that they may have as an individual or as a crew. This way we can identify if there's actually inherent problems with the system that we have, rather than just the individual. Okay? And of course, we have to tag if it was knowledge, awareness, or handling, and that gives us a bit of feedback. So that's going to go at the end of the form, where the instructor will go and sign the specific form. So we populate it with a date, aircraft type. That's it. There's no names. We can select CM1, CM2, so when we're assessing both the crew members in whichever capacity, we select with the tabs at the top, CM1, CM2, and then we populate the form as we go along. Okay? Great. When we come for the submission, only the instructor or the person conducting the LSO needs to sign. No one needs to see the form. No one needs to be debriefed about the flight unless safety was compromised and there was an immediate intervention by the instructor, which is logical, really. Okay? So you just sign it and send it off, and it comes to the back end. Okay, so if we made an entry of poor performance, then we would like the person conducting the LSO to make a brief note here. He's ticked, I'm snagging this chap here for knowledge. A brief comment here in the box, and that will be complete when you send it off back to the back end here. We should receive a notification only if something went wrong, in order for us to take action for rectification, and that's it. And as we said earlier on, this is in a non-punitive domain. And that's it. Additional reminders for the ETR QMS. Since the 21st of Feb, we've been running the program. This is just a reminder, guys, for you guys running RTs, line checks, PCs, RTs, any sort of form of skills test. Do use the ETR templates. They don't have the grading. It's just pass, fail, yes, no. As simple as it is, tick the box, submit. Just for the qualification date, meaning it sends it to the back end, it's registered on the system, and now we have the validities. We're working on, and we'll go a little bit in a second, we're still working on the final grading, the new grading system that we'll be using, etc. So, as we said, the templates do not have grading. It's just pass, fail, or yes, no, etc. Okay? So we're just recording for the qualification management. Both the ETR and the paper are required. We still need to do a little balance on this, just to ensure the integrity of the system, etc. Only the paper is used for the grading at the moment. You can pre-populate. You can download up to the day before and keep your ETRs, your templates offline, but ensure you synchronize when you go back and you complete your detail. I mean, wherever we are at the moment, wherever we operate, we've got good Wi-Fi connection, so, and it needs to be done on the same day. The reason it needs to be done on the same day is that later on, if we populate this the following evening, then there will be a one-day error on that person's qualification. Yeah? I'm not purposely looking at you.
Sure.
Can you move? Okay. And each template has instructions inserted inside to supplement the TN, which was published in February to supplement what we're doing with the ETR and so on and so forth. If you need any clarification and you need any info, please contact us. Contact Adam direct, contact anyone from the fleet training, myself. If you've got any issues using ETR, if we can help, or just email Adam direct, etc. Okay? Fleet updates.
Okay, fleet updates. I'm just going to share with you what have been published the last few months, basically since March onwards. The first three is basically just a reminder because they are more related to administrative issue. The middle one is those FCN related to operational. So pay close attention to the middle, those FCN, and particularly the 330 guys. 320 there's not much FCN actually. And then the last few is basically just for your info. Is related to cabin crew operation basically. So the first one, reminder, is the medical surveillance. As you know, A crew, we have the A crew exemption whenever we operate, whenever we come into Hong Kong as a crew. You need to fill up the medical surveillance form. In addition, because of this medical surveillance forms, there are three conditions on the form. First is you need to measure your body temperature twice a day and report it to the company. Second, if you are feeling unwell, you need to report it to Port Health Authority. And third, when you are going out for duty, you got to wear a mask. Okay, so there are three conditions on the form. Remember to observe this condition, okay? And to report it to the company, all you need to do is go into the flight operation circular, click this link here, it will bring you to the website where then you can fill in your body temperature and submit it. You need to do this all the way until the last day on the form, okay? So for those of you who enter in and out, if you have a form extension, you got to keep on doing this until the last day of the form.
Casey, I think we need a bit of clarification as well because I operated the other day in the Taipei. They gave me not the air crew form, they gave me the general form, which doesn't say I have to report back.
Yes.
Temperatures and pressures to the company.
They should give you an A crew form. As you can see on this form here, is actually for A crew only. They're supposed to give you an A crew form, but I believe they have some internal issue as well. So I did notice some of us were given a general form, but for all intent purpose, I believe you still have to comply with it. So you still have to comply with this. So make sure you keep on reporting until the last day on your form. Okay. Second one is the recency record. This is a notice that we published since March because of the very few flights that we have. So remember to fill it up, and as a captain, when you're reporting for duty, make sure your first officer and of course yourself have the recency before you go for flight. If you do an SBTA, for example, if you do an SBTA to revalidate your recency, then the 3 takeoff and landing can be the SBTA. So all the 3 takeoff and landing will be on the same day then, which is your SBTA. Your takeoff and landing, if your last one is SBTA, of course the 35 days can be that as well. Okay? Meaning to say, sir, for some of the 320 guys, if you have not been flying for 2 months and what you had was the SBTA, so the 4 dates on the form will be all the same. Alright? Okay, the third one is the midfield closure. It is still closed, however, ABO remain open. But the transport to ABO will have to go by shuttle bus. A reminder, the shuttle bus runs at 15 and 45 minutes past the hour. So time it correctly. And the pickup point is actually at 511 now. It's no longer at 523 or 524 previously. It's 511 because they shut down the south side. Is it? Yeah, they shut down the south side. It's only the north side remains open. So go to the north side and then go down and detect the bus. Okay. Okay, new FCN. So the first one is about SAP notice, PPE. We basically publish an SAP for the cabin crew. It serves as a guideline to the cabin crew how to use the PPE. And in here we have put in a reminder also in case if they need to fight the fire, make sure they take off the PPE first because it's highly flammable, the PPE. And in case they have to use the oxygen mask, remove the face mask first. They have also included in the PA announcement to the passenger to tell the passenger in case the oxygen mask drop from the PSU, remove your face mask before put on your oxygen mask. The next one is the FCN for the belly cargo only, okay? Because we used to operate with minimum number of cabin crew, but with belly cargo and with no passenger, we are allowed to operate with only 2 cabin crew members. Okay, so as a commander, remember to brief the cabin crew. They need to only arm L1 and R1. They only need to man the L1 and R1 door. Of course, the cabin crew will have to carry out the safety equipment check of all the aircraft, even with only 2 cabin crew. Right. The third one is this is the SAP notice. Previous one is the FCN actually. This is the FCN, which it talks about where you only carry 2 cabin crew for the belly cargo flight, and the other one is the SAP notice for the cabin crew, and here it has details. Instruction to the cabin crew, what they need to do, what they need to check. Okay, the fourth one is the flight with cargo in the cabin. Thanks to Captain Kenneth, we managed to get the approval for to carry cargo in the cabin. The approval came in on 29 May, and we just operated the first flight with cargo in cabin on last Saturday. Saturday we did the first flight. Okay, so this is an FCN talking about that. For flight crew, basically, pay attention. There are a few things you need to let the cabin crew know, the SP especially. First, make sure that the Air conditioning pack is set to low. Check with the SP, make sure that the air ventilator, the gasper, is all closed if you can close it. Third, make sure that the pack system to the IFE is off. Fourth, brief the cabin crew to arm and disarm only L1, R1, L2, R2, only 4 doors. And last, you have to inform the SP about the type and the location of the cargo in cabin. Okay, so basically these are the few things that you need to brief the SP. For the log sheet, because now we have cargo in cabin, so the log sheet is slightly different. You basically can see a compartment 0. Previously you only have compartment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you have compartment 0. The compartment 0 basically is the cargo in cabin. So from there you can see the total weight of compartment 0, which is the cargo in the cabin. Underneath the load instruction report, you can see it separate into 3 different locations. First one is the overhead cabin. The middle one is the cargo under the seat, and the third one is the cargo on the seat itself, and it's separated into different zones. Okay. And same on the log sheet here, you have compartment 0, which basically tells you the cargo in cabin, and it's separated into different zones at the bottom of the log sheet. Obviously, you will have to have a NOTOP. And lastly, in case it is manual log sheet, the manual log sheet also will have a compartment 0, and with different zones, details of the cargo in cabin. Any question? And this is the SEP notice related to that cargo in cabin as well. This has more instruction to the cabin crew. Yeah, but like I said, for flight crew, basically remember to brief SP the 5 points basically.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So with regards to the cargo carriage in the aircraft, because when it talked to James, I mentioned to James and you're saying that because our document we don't keep the NOTOP, now we have also something as important as this to keep in the document, and he said we are changing the VR to include NOTOPs to be kept inside. So just want to clarify whether that is because also now that we're doing this and you have a NOTOP which is a
But previously we also have NOTOP. It's just that not on all flights.
Change the VR and put the NOTOPs in, so we implement that now straight away with this as well.
At the moment, we haven't changed the VR. Well, let us review it, and if we do change, we'll let you know again. Yeah, but NOTOP is not something new. NOTOP, we have NOTOP previously. Of course, it's not on every flight. Yeah. Okay, these are the details, instruction to the cabin crew, basically. And the last one, we have also revised and came up with a new SEP notice, which basically allowed us to carry class 3, which is a flammable liquid, in the cargo hold. Right. The SEP notice was published on 26 May. The reason for this is to allow us to carry the what do you call the
hand sanitizer.
Yeah, hand sanitizer basically.
Alcohol-based sanitizer.
Yeah, alcohol-based hand
Hand
sanitizer.
sanitizer.
Okay, for your information, this is more related to cabin crew, but good to know as well. First one is the flying duty record. Like our recency, cabin crew have their own recency as well. Their recency is they must fly at least once in every 6 months, and this is type specific. Meaning to say, if they have been continue flying 330 but they have not flown 320 for more than 6 months, they cannot fly 320. Okay, it's type specific.
CD 360.
Yeah.
Requirement.
Based on the SCP notice sent out by ADRSS, lapse 1 will lapse both.
Correct. The reason why we set it this way is because as cabin crew, as you all know, they can fly both fleets. Once they reported for duty, all of a sudden, if there's an aircraft change and the crew control will call them, and now the flight is downgraded to 320, you go and operate on the 320. Because we do not have a system that can effectively track this, we put it on the more conservative way to say that if you have one lapse, you got to come back and redo it again. Okay? So it's a 6 months. So we have come up with an SAP notice for the cabin crew, and also we have come up with the form for them to fill in. So they will fill in this form, and the SP will actually check it before they start the flight. Okay? So it must be within the 6 months. Same like ours, 3 takeoff and landing, but theirs is 6 months, 1 flight, type specific. The SNY flight or the positioning flight not counted, huh? It must be actual operate as operating crew. The second one is the notice just now. Is about the guideline for the PPE, which I mentioned to you. They included the PA in there to advise the passenger, in case the oxygen mask is dropped, please remove your face mask before using the oxygen mask. And last is the CCN. This is cabin crew notice basically. This is the highlight of it. Started 1st June 2020. The company has introduced mandatory customer face covering policy. So all passengers who travel with us must use the face mask. The cabin crew bring with them extra face mask as well. So in case if the passenger do not have a face mask, they will give it to them and for them to work. Alright? Any question? Okay.
Thanks. Well, guys, can we take a 10-minute break? Just need to add on a couple of things VJ wants to discuss before we go into any other business. So we'll take a 10-minute break for 15 minutes. Just see if you're awake. Hi guys, thanks, welcome back. VJ's got a few words that he would like to continue regarding the handling recency, etc., etc. So, VJ,
Hello again. This is in regard to the forms, because when we receive the forms, we notice that there are several comments that are different from everybody. So we'd like to standardize everything. At the same time, in line with what Casey has mentioned and Andy has mentioned earlier, in the interim, all SBT A, we will use the AMC form. Okay? The only time we will not use the AMC form is if the trainee is not eligible. For example, if he's a CPLO holder, then we cannot use the AMC form. We will still do the SBTA. However, we will be utilizing a different form. It is the aircraft simulator base training form. Alright? Correct, yes, very good. So remember, as Andy has mentioned, the AMC form doesn't have the go around line there, but you still have to use the go around, or you still have to do the go around procedure. Alright. For those people who are not qualified or eligible for the AMC, will have to do the SBTA. Okay, utilizing that form. After that, they will have to undergo a LUFUS. Now, this is where the confusion happens. In the office, when we receive the form, some people are using the recency validation form, and some people are using the LUFUS form. So what's supposed to be used? We're supposed to use the LUFUS form. Alright, so SBTA and then LUFUS form. Now in the LUFUS, you just have to annotate it that it is a LUFUS after the SBTA. So when the people in the office takes a look at it, they know that the person has complied with the revalidation program. Alright? So the landing recency revalidation form need not be filled up anymore. Clear? Alright. Last. The 35-day captain landing recency revalidation. So we have a general supplement for this, or general notice for this. Okay. Most of the common mistakes or common errors is people, when they're doing the PC, they think that the takeoff and the landing that has been done during the PC is already a valid takeoff and landing. No, it has to be a separate takeoff and landing done at the end of the session. And this is also valid for RTs. Okay? So you complete the PC or the RT, and then you can do the takeoff and landing at the end. So in effect, you will have to fill up two forms: the PC RT form and this landing recency revalidation form. All right? Because I've been getting, oh, BJ, I've done a PC. Is that sufficient? Because he's done takeoff. No, it has to be done separate from the PC or the RT. Now, who can do this? TRIs, TREs, SFIs. So, all of you have done this one way or another. Just be reminded that when we fill up the form, the session details, for standardization purposes, let's put 35-day TL recency. That's it. Alright? Even in flight. If you do a flight, for example, you're an LTC, you can do a LUFUS, you can do a landing recency validation. You also put session detail 35-day TL recency. Because if it's a flight, then you can put your airport. If it's a SIM, then you can put the SIM code, so everybody knows what's to be done. Alright? And the comments portion, some instructors are doing 35-day recency, but they're giving 3 takeoff and landing. It's okay. You can do more than that because you have a lot of time in the sim. So you can do more than 1 takeoff and landing. That would probably give better exposure for the trades as far as takeoff and landing is concerned. Alright? Is it clear? Do you have any questions? So hopefully after this we'll have a more standardized way of filling out the forms.
What do you want in the comments then?
If you've done like 3 takeoff and landing satisfactory, then you put it there. If it's unsatisfactory, then you put unsatisfactory.
Okay.
Yeah.
So session detail, we put 35-day TL.
Yeah, you can put the 35-day TL.
So comments, if there's something special, you can leave it blank.
You can leave it blank, put nil.
Just put nil, right?
Yep.
Whatever, yeah.
Like a recommendation, you could put nil, so comments also nil.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
As long as it highlights what you have accomplished. If there were comments with it, we've done this, but unsatisfactory or whatever. And as long as what's been accomplished is established going forward, the rest is adequate.
Okay.
But sorry, the minimum we do on the simulator is 1 takeoff landing for the 35 days, nothing else.
Correct. Yeah.
The simulator is 1 takeoff landing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the minimum requirement. 1 satisfactory takeoff and landing. Okay, if it's unsatisfactory the first time, then you can give another. It's not a check. Any other question?
Incidentally, just to add on something for BJ's, I think the 35-day landing recency does not count towards the 3 takeoff and landings that you are required to do in 3 months.
Correct, yeah.
We haven't included this in the alternative means of compliance. Okay?
Yeah, correct.
So it needs to be done. Yeah, you can do. You've done 4 sim sessions for some reason in the month, and you've done 4 takeoff and landings. It doesn't mean that you've satisfied the 3 requirements.
All right.